So, what have we done here today?
I topped my locals with Earth Machines today.
Earth Machines, otherwise known as trains?
Yep, Machina Infinitrack trains. Got a little bit of everything in here.
All right, how were your matches?
We had some grind games. First up, Madolce, a brick fest. Bricked all 3 games. Narrowly pulled it out with Citadel in the end. After that, I went against Dragon Maids. Ended up in a tie, went into time. After that, I went against ABCs. Another grind game, couple of bricks in there.
Made some misplays too.
Lots of misplays. We did a lot of learning today. Eventually went into time. Gustav Max pulled that one in the end there. And then the last round against Sword Soul, which didn't make nearly as many misplays there. I played that one pretty good. The side deck really helped me out there in the end.
All right, where are we playing?
We're playing at Great Lakes Gaming. It's a new store that's been around for a couple of months now. I'm really liking it here.
All right, let's get into the profile.
All right, I think we'll start with the main deck, going extra than the side.
Yep.
I like to divide this deck into a couple of different components, the Infinitracks, the Machinas, and my train extenders.
Okay.
First up, one of the most important starters is 3 copies of Infinitrack Harvester. This card on normal summon can search an Infinitrack from your deck to your hand, has another effect which allows you to modulate the levels of itself and another monster on the field. It will add them together. So a 2 plus one of your rank 10 trains can make a 12. You can overlay into a Zeus without having to attack with an Xyz monster. You can cheat them out. Really nice starter. You always want to see this in your hand. There's ways to get into it multiple different ways.
All right.
One of the most important cards in the deck is also why this is also called Dozer Control. This is Infinitrack Brutal Dozer. All the level 5 and highers can special themselves from the hand by tributing an Earth Machine. This one, when it hits the field, will special summon an Infinitrack from your deck. The best target for this would be your Trencher. A level 5, you use this to go into a rank 5 River Stormer, which we'll get into. This one is a monster reborn out of the graveyard. And then last we got a couple of one-ofs. We have Infinitrack Tunneler. This is just Pot of Avarice. And then Anchor Drill. This one can special any Earth Machine from your hand onto the field on its normal summon, and it also adds levels of monsters together on the field.
All right.
Next are the Machinas. We got a little bit of rarity mixing in here.
That's all right.
Do what you gotta do. 3 Machina Metal Cruncher. If you control no face-up cards, you can normal summon it out of your hand. Its attack will go down to 1800. When it's normal or special summoned, you can reveal 3 Earth Machines out of your deck, and 1 gets randomly added to your hand. Generally, you want to reveal 3 Brutal Dozer. That way, no matter what happens, it's gonna get added to your hand no matter what. 2 one-ofs for the Machinas. We have 1 Fortress and 1 Citadel.
This card is nuts. I love
this card is nuts. Not once per turn. You can summon it by pitching. Machine levels are 8 and higher from your hand to the graveyard, including itself. And it can come out of your hand or graveyard. It is probably one of the best extenders the deck can have, especially because Harvester can turn it into a 9 and go to enter Blathnir or Earth Slicer. Other than that, there's a couple of effects that don't come up. If it's targeted, you get to look at your opponent's hand and rip a card out of it. And when it's destroyed, you can destroy a card on the field. Otherwise, this is an MVP of today. This is Citadel. Citadel is a quick effect Raigeki, and it summons itself out of the graveyard every time an Earth Machine gets destroyed.
Okay.
So, those out of the way. We have a couple of extenders here. I played 2 Bullet Train, 2 Heavy Freight Train Derrick Crane, and 1 Ancient Gear Box.
So only 4 trains?
Only 4 trains. They are very accessible at all times during the match. There's multiple different ways to search these, and you dig through your deck a lot through the Pot of Avarice. Bullet Train will special itself out of your hand if you don't control Earth Machines. In the end phase, it adds a Earth Machine from grave to hand if it's in the graveyard. Derrick Crane can special summon itself if you summon a machine monster. And not once per turn, when it's detached as material, you can target and destroy a card on the field. We do run 1 brick. Every combo deck's got to have 1. Ancient Gearbox. I saw this card way too many times today, but there is combos to get rid of it and recycle it. Added from deck or grave to hand, you add a Earth Machine monster with 500 attack or defense from deck to hand. This card can search your Anchor Drill. It can also search Trencher, and it can search Tunneler. 3 very important key components of the deck, always accessible through box. You can loop it multiple times. After that, we have a really strange hand trap lineup. We got a couple of 2-ups because I didn't know what I was supposed to bring tonight.
When you want to see them sometimes, but not all the time.
Right. Ash Blossom isn't so great. I didn't use it a lot today at all. I found myself siding it out. Valor has been great, and Droll came up more than I thought it would.
Main deck Droll is very interesting.
Yeah, people usually don't see it coming. And so it was a little bit risky to main it, but it ended up working a couple times. It came up multiple times, so I was happy with these ratios.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming.
In the future, I'd probably cut the Ash, run a 3rd Valor, and these should be imperms if you got them. Run the imperm over it. And the 3rd one, anything else you can cram in here. Not too many spells in here. Only 3 Heavy Forward and 3 Machina Redeployment. Heavy Forward on activation adds an Infinitrack from deck to hand. It also can change battle positions of Xyz monsters or attach it to his material. The other one is Machina Redeployment. You can discard a card and add either Machina monsters or Machina cards, depending on what you discard. When you add cards, you can search things like Overdrive, which will be an interruption that we'll get to next with our trap lineup.
Okay.
We have 2 copies of Machina Overdrive. Target a machine monster you control, special summon a Machina from your deck, and then destroy your target. It also can recycle your banished, 3 banish and or machine monsters that are in your graveyard into the deck and draw 1. It's really nice for the grind games. If you get things that are getting banished out of your field or your deck, it's not that big of a deal because you can recycle them. No matter where your machines are, you can always generally get them back into play. Next is some other interruptions. We have 2 Torrential Tribute, 3 Solemn Strike, and 1 Imperial Order. The Torrentials are pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of synergy in this deck with Torrential Tribute. It's really easy to get Bullet Train in the graveyard with this. It triggers Citadel because an Earth Machine will probably get destroyed by this, and Citadel will come back. So essentially, it creates 2 board wipes on the field. Solemn is solemn.
Solemn
is solemn. It's been a powerhouse today. Imp Order I didn't see once except for in a practice game.
Oh, those are Saki one-ups for
Right, and you know what? If you see it, you see it, and if you do, congratulations. But if you don't, sometimes you don't end up needing it, but you can play around it.
All right, let's go in the extra deck.
All right, extra deck.
This is pretty tight.
The extra deck is what I love about this deck. It's all toolbox, except for some things that you have to run. Triple Goliath, you need to cycle through this as much as you can. You need to get all 3 copies in the graveyard. On the field, it does next to nothing, except for when it's attached as material to an Xyz, it protects it from destruction. You just use this to cycle it through your Pot of Avarice Tunneler. That's the only reason why you play it, and it helps facilitate graveyard effects. Other than that, that's the only reason why you run it. 1 Ancient Gear Ballista. This searches your box. That is pretty much the only thing that you'll ever use it for. You also can destroy a spell to make the attack of a monster your opponent controls become 0, which does not come up often because you just use this to search your box, then it goes to the graveyard when you link it away. End of story. You don't need it after that. Next, this is an interesting thing I decided to do. I decided to play 2 double-headed Anger Knuckle. Generally, people play 1 Anger Knuckle and 1 Cliffort Genius. I opted to take Genius out because I'm not playing Urgent Schedule, except for in the side deck. The main reason is that Genius can get an effect to search when 2 machines are special summoned in its link zones, which you don't do if you don't have Urgent Schedule. So I decided to play 2 double-headed Anger Knuckles so I can maximize not having to recycle it. Instead, I can just rely on having the second copy. You can OTK for game much more often having 2 copies, so you can recycle your level 10 Earth Machines instead of this card.
Makes sense. A lot of logic.
For Infinitrack Xyz, we have Riverstormer. This can search or dump any Earth Machine in your deck. This is how you make game on turn 2 or 3. You will recycle. You'll either add to your hand or dump Citadel, Derek Crane, Bullet Train, any level 10 piece that you need for either interruption or making game. This card's got you. It also comes out of the graveyard by tributing a link monster, which will be Goliath, which will attach as material, so you can always recycle it over and over and over again. Our toolbox we got here, we have 1 Dingirsu, 1 Gaia Dragon for our Zeus package, an Enter Blathnir, and an Earth Slicer. Dingirsu comes up where you have Box in your hand and Anchor Drill, which happens on turn 3. You normal summon your Anchor Drill, which is special summon your box. You add the levels together, make Dingirsu, and you can send a card from field or attach any of your banished machines as material.
Dingirsu's super good.
It facilitates a lot of combos with this deck. Actually only came up once or twice today. I didn't end up relying on him too much. Same with Gaia Dragon. I didn't actually summon today, but works really well with River Stormer because you can just slap it on top of your River Stormer, so you don't have to change its battle position when it comes out of the graveyard. Zeus is Zeus. You can set up a couple of board wipes, but this deck does not rely on Zeus. I summoned it twice today out of my 4 matches. You don't really need him. Enter Blathnir only comes up in rank 9 combos, same for Earth Slicer. Not quite as accessible. You could play things over them, but when they come up, they're powerhouses. Earth Slicer can destroy cards on the field equal to the amount of materials you detach on it, so you can completely wipe a back row off of it. And Enter Blathnir can banish out of hand, field, graveyard, top of deck, whatever you need. There is a combo for going first where you can banish a card that the opponent controls and still dig through your deck and still have plenty of gas.
All right.
Last for the extra deck, we have simple rank 10s. We have Dora, Gustav Max, and Juggernaut Leva.
I know this came up in time.
This did come up in time. I had just enough materials in the graveyard, and I got lucky enough to pull it off into time, so I was able to pull a match with Gustav Max. And Dora is really effective. This came up in the... almost came up in the Sword Soul matchup, but it got negated just before I could use it. If you're afraid of Nibiru, you can chain Super Dora to protect anything that's on your field. Anything that you target off of his effect, which is a quick effect, becomes unaffected by card effects for the turn. Keep in mind, you cannot... It's unaffected by card effects, including your own, so it's easy to misplay with it, which misplays happened a lot today. And Liba is Liba. It can go upwards of 6,000 attack. It attacks multiple times depending on how many materials it has. And it's easy enough to summon as if you have this, you can just slap it on top.
I know, yeah, you use this against me to get over my my 5300 attack access code.
It can out access code. It's a big out to Dragoon because you can just beat it over. Yeah. Not a lot of cards get over 6,000 attack. They need to rely on other sorts of removal, which is the one little edge that trains can have, is that if someone builds a big board, you can just make a big monster and attack all of them and get rid of them.
Yep, hard to stop the train. Alright, let's see the side deck.
Side deck is a little strange. For monsters, let's see, we have triple Nib. Everyone knows what Nib does these days.
Yep, it needs negates.
It bricked me more than I needed it.
Oh.
Especially in the matchup with, what's your union deck called?
ABCs.
ABCs. It bricked me hard. Made Appaloosa for 2. I could eat a negate with 1, but it slowed the game enough at that point where I top decked a second one. It was the biggest brick I could have had.
You passed 3 turns in a row.
I did pass a lot. It was rough. Last monster run is just a 3rd droll. I had 1 extra space, and I don't have big blowout cards like droplets and things like that. So I just have the 3rd droll for when it comes up. A lot of people are playing decks that dig a lot, and so the droll comes up. I sided this in multiple times.
That seems good.
We have multiple spells going on here. The first one that's in theme is Urgent Schedule.
Very interesting that you sided this instead of maining it.
Yes. There are combos where you can main it. I just don't like them. It's easy to facilitate your rank 10s when you run this, but you don't have to rely on them if you can easily access them throughout the game. Urgent Schedule can search when it's sent from the field to graveyard if it's set, or you can activate it to special summon a level 4 and lower and a 5 and higher Earth Machine from your deck, which is nice for going second. That's the only reason why I was siding it. I have a 3rd copy. I thought about it, but the 2 ended up working out fine. I didn't end up relying on this card too much today. Just some monster hate. We got some Rarity Mix Dark Rulers here.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong. It does the same thing. The text is the same. 3 Dark Ruler and 3 Forbidden Chalice.
I love Chalice.
Chalice has been great to me today. Every time I sided it in, I got to see it, and it worked. Especially in the Sword Soul matchup. You need to see the Chalice. You have to have your negates in there, or you're going to lose. Dark Ruler actually didn't come up. I had it a couple times in my hand, but I didn't end up needing it because I either had the Chalice or I had ways to play through Interruption, which is why you want to run 2 Dare Crane, 2 Bullet Train. You want to be able to play through as much Interruption as possible. And last, we just got some Spell and Trap hate. Feather Duster, double Cyclone. You could run 3 Cyclones instead of the 3rd Droll, or You're supposed to run 3 Lightning Storm if you can afford them.
Oops.
You would much rather run the Lightning Storm over these.
Hey, these get around anti-spell.
It does. It gets around anti-spell, and it gets around Mystic Mine with Field Barrier. That's what it's good for, but no one's really playing that these days.
You gotta respect the mine.
You do have to respect mine. Thankfully, no one's playing that here these days, but be prepared for it if it comes up.
Right.
And that is it.
All right, so MVP of the deck. If you had to pick a card.
Ooh, that's hard. Take a quick look-see here. It's probably either going to be Derek Crane or probably Super Dora were the 2 cards that you need the most, especially in the grind game, that you need to keep on the field, especially Citadel too. Anytime you can have access to Citadel, the faster you can get to it, the better it is for the grind game. Every time you can board wipe your opponent while still getting card advantage off of Bullet Train is going to keep you into the game much more, for a lot longer amount of time. You keep the gas going. If you run out of gas, that is the biggest problem for the deck. If going into a grind game and not having materials is your enemy. So always make sure you recycle your materials, get your Super Doras to protect your thing, to any of your monsters, and make sure you hold your Libe. You only have space for 1 Libe. Right. You only have space for just these 2 for your OTK engine. It's the only time you should access those if you know that is the optimal time to go into them. Because if you don't and you miss your mark, you're probably not going to be able to see them again if you can't recycle it, and that is it.
All right, far out. Do you have any shout-outs?
Winter Kills and Aerosol TCG were the founders of this deck, and of course Great Lakes Gaming for being able to host these events.
All right. Thank you very much, Dom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. This is a profile on Thinking Cap Games. Please comment, like, or subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.